जय जगदीश हरे। जो ध्यावे फल पावे, दुख बिन से मन का। स्वामी दुख बिन से मन का। सुख संपत्ति घर आवे, सुख संपत्ति।
Your Trauma Talks, an incredible new series that brings live conversations with individuals who share your resilience and understand your story. Join us as we dive deep into the realm of mental health, exposing the truth behind the challenges these remarkable individuals have faced. Discover how you have overcome adversity as these incredible souls take the stage in New York City, sharing their inspiring stories with everyone. Experience the power of Your Trauma Talks on Trauma Talks Thursdays, live as we bring you face to face with individuals who have triumphed over their trauma and come out stronger on the other side. Hear their raw and honest accounts of their struggles and how they have found healing and hope in the midst of pain. Don't miss out on this rare opportunity to connect with those who truly understand what you are going through. Join us for an unforgettable evening every Thursday of sharing, support, and solidarity as we come together to break the stigma surrounding mental health. Experience the magic of Your Trauma Talks live in New York City, where compassion and courage converge to create a space of healing and empowerment. It's time to speak up, listen, and learn from those who have walked a similar path.
Maharaj immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago nearly 23 years ago. He currently resides in Queens, New York. 5 years ago, he created Your Life Experiences with Rob, a social media platform that allows everyone to share real stories about overcoming the pitfalls of life. Rahul is the author of Untold Stories, Hidden Truths, and Melly and the Pandemic. Ra is also a great friend of mine, and he has been very, very supportive from the day that we met. He's an empathic person, and he always wishes the best for everybody, and he really means it. You know how it's great to just get well wishes, that's beautiful, but Ra goes above and beyond, and I'm sure he doesn't just do that with me. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rahul K. Maharaj.
Let's do this one time.
Meet Brittany Purr, an extraordinary empath, evolution expert, and accountability coach who's making a profound impact worldwide. With her unwavering commitment to creating accountability and providing emotional support, Brittany holds a safe, open space for individuals to stay on track in their journey of connecting with and manifesting their dreams. Having embarked on her own transformative path of personal development, empowerment, healing, and self-exploration, Brittany has acquired a wealth of valuable experience. Through deep levels of insight and introspection, she has honed her abilities and now actively shares her wisdom with others through Obscorum.com. This vibrant online community serves as a platform for sharing knowledge, insights, and personal stories on self-empowerment. As a captivating speaker, Brittany has graced the virtual stage alongside renowned personalities such as Les Brown, captivating audiences with her inspiring messages. Furthermore, she is the self-published author of Can I Get Some Sleep?, a guide of quick and easy tips to get a good night's rest, offering practical solutions for achieving restful nights. Brittany is a true autodidact, a self-taught individual who has gained wisdom through her own experiences, and a polymath with diverse knowledge spanning multiple fields. Beyond her remarkable professional journey, Brittany is also a devoted single mother of an ambitious teen and 2 Instagram famous cats, adding joy and love to her life.
Please welcome Miss Brittany Purr. Hello, Brittany, and welcome to Trauma Talks Thursdays.
Thank you so much, Raw. Those intros never get old. It just this is so awesome. So thank you.
They,
Thank you.
they
Thank you. Thank you.
definitely don't, and you're welcome. And hey, it's episode 25. Would you believe that?
It's amazing. I love it. It is it's phenomenal.
It is
25
really,
episodes deep.
it is really, really, really amazing that we got here, episode 25. And not only that is episode 25, our amazing guest sitting backstage, ready to come on here to do her magic is even more exciting. It brings it, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. And can I just give a quick shout out to everybody who is tuning in? Shanaz, Gurley, Geneva, everyone who, Chandra, Natasha, Sherry, everyone who tunes in each week. Like, this would not be possible without you. It is tough to stay committed to things when, there's nobody watching. So thank you. Thank you. Everyone who is watching, who has watched, who is viewed, who is supporting in your own way. Thank you so much. Like, I'm looking at the chat right now and I'm just like, oh my God, it's just incredible. It is absolutely incredible. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep. That's you can't beat that, because without them we would not be here. And guess what? It's not just on this live right now on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn or YouTube. It's actually a podcast. So you would be listening to the rerun on the podcast, and it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon Music, it's on Spotify, it's on iHeartRadio. So you could be listening to it anywhere right now. We want to thank you for tuning in and supporting us week after week. So thank you so much, genuinely, from Brittany and myself and our amazing guests that show up here week after week to help you to understand that you are not alone, especially in this roller coaster ride we all call life. So, Brittany, how was your week, my love?
Woo! It's always interesting.
I love it.
It's so fascinating just how the universe just kind of is like, boop, you're going to talk about this week. And just, am I allowed to go on a quick little tangent?
You can do your thing.
Okay. So the theme that came up, which just witnessing this out in the world with everything that's happening right now, and then it came up on another area where the connotation of the word evil. And yes, we all use this word, but I think we use it a little too much. And this is going to be a little controversial. So do what you can to grab a pillow, hug it, whatever you need to do. Because it's interesting when we label something as evil, we give ourselves the license to attack because it's okay. They're evil. We're righteous because we put that label on someone or something. That also hinders the ability to understand that person or that thing, because hurt people. And usually, a lot of times, some of that can come from trauma. It's highly debatable, which is why I'm like, some of it can, because there's still a lot of studies to be had on that. And then it breaks an understanding that at any point in time, we can have those behaviors of that person. We can adopt those mechanisms and not even really realize it, because we've labeled this person as evil. They have no capacity for anything good, because, people aren't just two-dimensional objects. Like, people are very multifaceted. And when they might do something good in one area, they might be doing something really negative in another area. And this is the opposite of the issue of labeling as something evil. We tend to pedestalize someone. And then when they fall from grace because they're human, then we label them as evil. So it's like this weird dichotomy or dynamic that ultimately is almost self-harming, but also harming in a way to us understanding ourselves deeper. And it's an interesting concept to kind of start looking at and begin unpacking as to, well, what are we labeling evil so that we don't look at it, so that we don't have to deal with it? And maybe sometimes those are things within ourselves, something that we've done that we're like, that was evil. I can't handle it. I can't deal with it. But then you don't unpack it and going, well, okay, why did I do that? Where does that come from? Why does this happen? And so instead of just outright labeling something as evil, as like, we can't deal with it, we can't like look at it, we can't see, maybe we've kind of done something like that a little bit before, like Jesus saying, the first person who is without sin cast the first stone. Nobody could cast the first stone, so it's something to sit on and to maybe sit with and go, we're all human. But yes, absolutely, there are things that need to be dealt with. There are things that happen that are not okay, and you don't have to take it. So I want to encapsulate that with this whole premise and thought when we begin on the deeper look at our healing journey. And I say this because sometimes we bless you because sometimes our hurt, when we're entrenched in that trauma state, can hurt others. And then we become the bad guy. And I don't think anybody really wants that to happen or even considers that happening. But I know I personally have flipped out on someone for no reason because it triggered trauma. And I've had to work through that and really go, oh, yeah, that was messed up. So it happens to the best of us, but it's just one of those things that we get to begin to look at and not get lost into people pleasing or going, oh, well, they're just no. Like, stand your ground, honor yourself, respect your time, and get into that state of what I would say is unbotheredness, but getting things done. Take no ish, do no harm.
Yeah.
So
I think we touched on this in different ways over the past couple of episodes, a few episodes, because I spoke about that when I told them Brittany could be doing a million good things today, and one little thing that they think that she did wrong, and everyone, 500,000 people, will turn their back on you. That's how I bring it in again. Human beings are the destruction of other human beings. Because at the end of the day, quickly they're ready to judge and ready to jump on you. Just similarly, this week I was speaking to someone, and this is a conversation I have all the time why I bring this in. And I said, the first thing people said is he's a devil or he's a demon. And the problem with that is I could see, as normally people say, the enemy, or I would say my friend, because you learn from this, because good and evil, as we learn, happens mostly in here. So when you talk about that, and someone is describing a very wicked person that does very bad things to others, like a few weeks ago, what happened to that amazing doctor in India who was brutally raped and ended up dying and assaulted. And this is a doctor, a young doctor we are talking about, who pledged her life to saving other lives. And here you are. You took advantage of her till she lost her life. No one deserves that. And then you would see people would say, oh, the devil did that. No. I think the devil might be sitting down looking at me like, whoa, I didn't even think about that. Because, and if you think about it in depth with that way, it's always a blame and a pointing a finger. This is coming from a spiritual person who has been, who I walk the path of good and understand. So when I tell you this, most of the times people call you evil and they don't even know your background or who you are and the character that you build for yourself. So swinging it all the way around to that is, this is something people need to look at. They need to look at themselves in the mirror, because the ones who do not are the ones who are always quick to judge and point fingers, especially when it swings around to something they're calling you that is bad. I love. If you look at the comments, I've been seeing some of them popping up here. Sherry saying amen, amen. And we have Shanaz is saying she love us. Don't forget, shout out to Jenny. She's here every single week. Sherry David is saying you're so right, Rosh. Shanaz is saying true. So with that being said, I personally do not know our guest tonight, but you do. And
Yes.
I want you to say something on her behalf before we bring her up here. But what I can tell you is the little call I had with her, my connect call with Dr. Gemi Bertran, was amazing. It was like, oh my God, mind blowing. So I know the positivity and what she brings, not just to us tonight, but in society today and in this world, who she is. So without further ado, I want to bring her up and you introduce her. Everyone, we give to you all Dr. Gemi Bertran.
Yay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is wonderful. What a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. And
Really great to be here.
thank you for being here. Let
Amazing
me do a
having
quick
you.
introduction for Gemi. She is the author of The Fabulous Brain. She is the creator of the Nourish the Brain Institute, that is saving lives one brain at a time. Now, I don't want to dive in too deep into her story because every aspect of it is incredible. She's the mother of 2 children. One is a chosen child, and I believe the other is biological. And let me just tell you, Gemi is an amazing, phenomenal, heart-centered woman that is absolutely creating huge exponential change in this world by healing traumatic brain injuries where not many doctors know how to deal with it. This includes like long COVID. If any of you are dealing with that, I highly suggest reaching out to Gemi. She is well researched. I've watched her work with many people, heal some incredible brain injuries, and including her own. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Rini. You are so wonderful. I mean, just seeing your smiley face here is just so, it's just being so much peace, right? Like people that sees you every week has something positive to say about you. So this says a lot about you. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Well, it only takes one person to make your life switch and turn around 180 degrees. And I remember that it was a summer, it was July, it was really hot. And I remember that lady, that young lady, right? That she woke up one morning and she knew that she wasn't dead because she had thoughts, but her body wasn't moving, right? Very smart, very active, not an athlete, but like somebody healthy. And her body doesn't move. All of a sudden, she was about to get off the bed and no response. That woman was me. For many, many years, not many, but many years, I worked as an independent auditor for nonprofits. I was deployed 3 months at a time, and I used to work overseas. I worked in India for many, many times, and months at the time. I was in India right after the tsunami, and Before that, north, south, east coast, west coast. I travel all around India, so I have also a traumatic experience there. But the case is, for a very long time, I was working and raising my son at the time. I didn't have my daughter yet. I was a single mom. I was, again, working overseas. And it was a very stressful. My job was managing uh, financial and a lot of money that many nonprofits were giving. And my job was deploy the money where it was needed in the country that all these nonprofits wanted to help. So I did that for quite some time, and in the beginning was pretty manageable, very exciting. Was part of my doctorate, was part of my PhD. So I was, like working and studying and doing my thesis and everything. But I started neglecting my own health. I thought, well, if those kids cannot eat, who am I to get to eat? And slowly but surely I start, like losing weight, like feeling more stressed than usual, like still having to travel back and forth. And I start, like growing tired and neglecting my own self until the day that, my body said enough is enough. And that moment was a breaking point. I was rushed to the ER, and all doctors did all kinds of testing, from multiple spinal taps, which I do not recommend anybody. It's horrible, it's incredibly painful, and it has a really, really bad side effects. Like you have like horrible headaches, and like it's just very, very painful. And they couldn't come up with an answer. So they said, well, something really bad happened in your brain, but we don't know what it is. And when I left the ER that day, I thought, I did this to myself, so I can undo it. So then I switched my research and I started researching about the brain, right? And because I worked in different countries where medicine was still like it was in the past, right? Like they use food as medicine, plants and herbs and other things as medicine, right? So I started researching and learning and learning and learning, and my research never ends because I keep doing that consistently and constantly. And that brought me to what I am doing today, right? My trauma experience and the breaking point to get to the place where I got, it was when I see somebody that says Ayurvedic, and yes, I did Ayurveda a lot. Um, my breaking point, I mean, like how you can, I mean, like you can imagine the fact that traveling so much, I was working in a world that was basically managed um, by mail, right? Like I was dealing and working all the time with mail, and and I had to be, like always protected, always very careful, always very serious. One of the things that happened to me is it happened in India, unfortunately. And when Ra explained that story, I was very reticent to tell my story from India, because this is not what happens there all the time. I love India. I love Indian people. I have incredible memories from there. But what happened is I was, whoever is, I mean, like if anybody is familiar with India, everybody knows that you are going to be traveling by train if you have to go from one end to the other or side by side. And the trips in train are very, very long. Like it takes hours and hours. It's not super fast. And those trains are super long. And you have been on TV, you have seen in TV all these trains that are loaded with people on top of the roof, right? So I was traveling one of those trips, and I was carrying, like my bag, and you have to be very careful, right? Because I had a big backpack. I had a backpack that was like close to probably 50 pounds, and the way that, like I had a private compartment, but it's not locked, like it's just, you have to be very careful. So like you sleep with your backpack wrap up, like around your body or in your head, so you hold on to the backpack so you don't get dropped, because there is a lot of people back and forth, right? And there is good people everywhere, but there is, like these people that also make the experience not so positive. and the train, like it was still, like early evening, and the train was kind of running out of people. Like everybody was, like going down stations, and it was, like towards the night, people was, like getting close to their small compartments, share compartments. And then all of a sudden I kept seeing, like I went to the restaurant, which was a tiny coach, and I went there, and then I thought, oof, there is not many people here. So I start feeling a little bit, like um, when you have this feeling, that eerie feeling that something is not good, right? Like something is gonna happen, or somebody, like something weird, like the energy was different, right? Like it kind of shifted. And I went to, like thought, oh, I'm gonna go back to my compartment. And I kept, like walking back to my compartment with my backpack in my bag. And all of a sudden, like I kept seeing these five guys that were, like kind of tracking where I was going. So I kept going, kept going, kept going. And these guys kept coming, behind me. And I thought, that doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. But I thought, let me see if they follow me. They keep following me. So I kept moving from one coach to the next. And they kept following me. So I thought, that is not good. So I thought, if I am getting inside my little compartment and these guys come in, I'm done, because there is no exit there. So I kept going towards the back of the train. And when I got at the end, I was just by myself. And these five guys, like just they fan themselves around me. And I thought, I'm done. And I thought, well, two things can happen here. Or they take control of the situation and they do whatever they want to do with me. Or I take control of my situation, and whatever it is, it happens. I just leave it to the universe and see what's going on. So I opened the back door of the train, and the train was still going. And I jumped off the train with my backpack. It was it was extremely painful, because, like the door, it wasn't like straight towards the back. The door was on a side. So I jumped straight, and now I know you cannot jump with a heavy backpack against or another direction that the train doesn't go, right? Like you always have to jump favoring the direction of the train. So the backpack followed the direction of the train, and my legs or my feet trying to stick on the ground, of course, was impossible, because, train was going to a speed, even though it wasn't too fast, but it was faster than what I could run. So obviously, I fell on the ground. My breathing got completely cut off. Like my legs cramped up, and I thought, that's it. I'm gonna be paralyzed. Like, like tons of things run through your mind, and I thought, that's it. All of a sudden, from everywhere on the ground, multiple people gathered around me. Of course, the train was gone. And I thought, well, at least I'm not dead. I didn't get, like damage, or I didn't get hurt by anybody. I just hurt myself. So I took control of the situation, even though it wasn't a positive outcome. So anyways, a lot of people came out around. Apparently there was a village around there, and people were still working in the fields around the area. And they lift me up, and they took me to an Ayurvedic doctor. And that Ayurvedic doctor had me there, put me on one of those massage beds with a heat. He put some oils. I mean, like all kinds of the Ayurveda, which is wonderful, and had me there like for 12 hours. He fed me bananas like nobody's business. Like I thought, I'm just gonna be constipated forever, because I think I had like 15 or 17 bananas. Like he kept feeding me that, and after that time, like 12 hours later, he said, "You are good." Like he didn't even charge me. He didn't, like he spent all the time with me just doing things. I mean, like I don't even remember what he did, because it was so, like it was, like I wasn't unconscious, but it was kind of traumatic. And I never ever had a problem with my back. Like it could have been horrible that night. That night, actually, I mean, like the next day, I was flying back to Barcelona to my home. So it was a miracle what the Ayurvedic doctor did. So I thought, whoo, that's something, right? Like that's something interesting, right? Like he gave me some food, he put me some oils and heat, and nothing happened. Like it could have been catastrophic, but it wasn't. Right. So I mean, like adventures like this one I had. I mean, not traumatic like this one, but like multiple, multiple things that could have been a disaster, and it didn't happen. So like also the thought process is like, ooh, so you can take control of your, like the things that happen to you in a positive way, right? Like in a good way. And that was like when I got really sick, that was the thing where I grasped on. I thought, well, I had that experience in India. I mean, there is something in our brains that is connected to the entire body, and when the brain doesn't work, nothing works, right? When the brain works, everything else works. So then I moved my career to um, brain and behavioral health through nutrition. Another amazing thing happened in 2004. I wanted a daughter. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have a husband, and I wanted a daughter. And I decided to adopt to Haiti for many reasons, but the practical reason and the main reason is because at that point, in Spain, as a single mom, you were very limited to the places that you could adopt. And the place that made it super easy and a little bit faster, it was Haiti. And I thought, my daughter is gonna be Haitian. And I was super, super happy about that. So, like you go through the entire process of adoption. And when you are ready to go and get your daughter, you already have pictures, you have everything. And all of a sudden, Haiti got into a coup d'etat. Get a call from my attorney there and says, "Hey, listen, the documents are in the government agents, with the government offices. The entire government is on fire. Everything is lost. We will have to start over again. Most likely, it's not going to be able to. You are not going to be able to adopt Illy, because that was already her name, Illy. But you will find somebody else. We'll find somebody else." And I said, "What?" Like, like you have a child, and all of a sudden they'll take it and say, "I'm going to give you this one." Like it's a new one. This is fine, right? So I thought, that's not going to happen. So the next day, I bought a ticket to Dominican Republic. I got also a telegram from Foreign Affairs from Spain, saying that they would not support the fact that I was traveling to Haiti or Dominican Republic being in a coup d'etat. A couple of weeks before that, they remove all the foreign personnel from the country, and everybody was back to their countries, like Americans, Spanish, Europeans, no matter what, everybody was back to their countries. So consulates, embassies, like official official or government offices were already closed. And I decided to go to Dominican Republic. I thought, well, when I'm there, I'll figure out. It's the same island. So what can it, like how difficult can it be? I'll find a plane. The airport was closed in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. So that was going to be a little bit tricky. But then when I got to Dominican Republic, I started looking for, like private jets, helicopters, like commercials. Nothing was going there. So I thought, man, the last resource is going to rent a car. But everybody was saying, like driving across the border is going to be, like it's just almost, at that point, it was almost a death sentence. All of a sudden, I see an Air Force guy at the airport, American, and I thought, oh, I'm sure that they are going there. So I go and I ask the guy, I said, hey, listen, are you flying to Port-au-Prince? And he says, yes, ma'am. And I said, well, can I go with you? And he says, no, you can't. This is a military plane. It's not a civilian plane. And I said, well, can I talk to your superior? And he said, you can talk to baby Jesus, but it's not going to happen. So anyways, I convinced him. He took me to his superior. His superior said, well, we'll take you there, but you've never been here. So they flew me to Port-au-Prince. Never knew anybody's name, never asked. They dropped me there. I had my attorney came to pick me up, and we went straight to the orphanage from the airport. At the moment that when I was in the plane, I made a promise to myself. The promise was, the day that I have a chance, I will do whatever I can to help these guys, to do something for these people. Talking about military, right? In the United States. At that time, nothing was farther in my mind that I was going to move to United States. I mean, we are talking from 2004. I moved here in 2013. So that's many years later, right? I had no idea. Anyways, when I got to Haiti, it took a few days, like multiple trips to the orphanage, because they didn't want to give me a kid without paperwork, right? That has another name. It's called kidnapping. So they didn't want to give me my daughter. I mean, of course, they had some paperwork. I had some paperwork. But, like the official thing that says, like with a passport that says, hey, you can take your daughter back home. I didn't have that. So I had to persist. Persistence is, I would say, that is some would say that is stubbornness, but I consider persistence a really high quality, or a very higher quality that we can have, like never give up, right? Like no matter whatever it takes, right? So I had to be on guard in front of the orphanage for a couple days, until the day that I told them, I said, listen, if you are not giving me my daughter, most likely I will get killed here. And it's going to be your responsibility. My country will want to know what happened, and they will make you responsible. That wasn't true, but you use whatever you can. So they finally gave it to me, gave Illy to me, and I took Illy. We went to the Spanish consulate. At that time, there was only one receptionist, and was a Haitian lady, and a couple military, Spanish military guys outside of the gate. And I said, well, we have to stay here. And the lady said, no, you can't. And I said, yes, I can. This is my country. I'm going to stay here until I get a passport for my daughter to fly back home. We slept there on the floor of the hall because nobody was there. 4 days. Day 5th, an helicopter came. 2 hours later, I had a passport with my daughter's name, my 2 last names, and we flew out of the country. So that was a successful story, but all these things add up to the trauma, right? Like trauma is not something that happens. I mean, sometimes it happens and then you have effects. Sometimes it's a slow path to trauma, right? Like it just piles up, because we have these stress hormones that keep accumulating, right? Cortisol creates lots of inflammation. It brings you to a breaking point when you have this high level of stress. consistently. And then once in a while you spike up, right? So when I move fast forward, I moved to United States in 2013 and I started working on brain and behavioral health. I created my own company, Nourish the Brain Institute. And as promised, I start volunteering and putting myself, like wedging myself within the VA, the veteran outreach program, volunteering, the veteran collaborative at the city where I was living, which was San Luis Obispo. I created wonderful relationships. I met a lot of people. I networked a lot, and I helped a lot of people. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I thought, I'm going to take this a little bit more, like to the state of California instead of just the city, right? So then I started collaborating with another really big foundation called the Honor Foundation, training special forces on brain and behavior, to so what they are doing is they are transitioning from active duty to civilian life, special forces officers. This is la creme de la creme on the military, right? Like the Navy SEALs, Green Berets, the Delta Force, all these guys. And I felt really comfortable with them. They feel really comfortable with me. And I thought, man, this is, like they kept saying, hey, you have to be in the government contracting. This program has to be available to everybody in the military and the veterans. So that was the beginning of where we are today. And last year we were granted a GSA contract, which makes you officially a federal contractor. I created a school. Nourish the Brain Institute is a school. It's an accredited school. We are in the ETPL, so anybody that is eligible for the WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. Also workers' compensation, and then all the veteran benefits, like that, the VRNE program, which is Veteran Readiness and Education. They have another program called VPAN. Now, more recently, they have the PACT Act. So we have been training and enrolling veterans and workforce and workers' compensation. And we have mentoring calls. I love my students. And this is what we do. We help people to understand how the brain works and how to heal it with food and superfoods and creating healthy habits to have a much better and longer life. Thank you. I hope you enjoy.
Wow.
I think it went a little bit long. What do you think, Ra?
It's perfect.
We actually was just sitting back here, just looking. Brittany and I, we're backstage commenting and talking because, like, mind blowing. The comments alone is like, wow. They're telling you how strong. We should read some of these for you. But I have so many questions, but like I think you answer them within your story, especially where you spoke about how trauma builds up slowly. That is a point where some people, I think, do not understand and get sometimes because it piles up. It's like being in an abusive relationship, being abused every day. A person might love you, a person might be able, they want to be around you, they want to connect with you on your level, but you're abusing them all the time. They actually going to snap or they're going to break free. That is because the buildup is too much, So I love how you put it and swing it. But my God, you are really an amazing soul. So let's jump into some of the comments. Brittany, you can chime in and
Yeah, definitely. I in the background, I was like, yeah, just casually, this just happened. And I'm like, when you really reflect on what you shared, it's like, wait, that's intense. So I want to hear a little bit about, like, what do you feel, gave you the resilience and the resolve to kind of get through these situations and start saying, no, I'm not going to take this. No, I'm not going to allow myself to fall victim to this dynamic that I can already see is coming down the train or the train tracks, given that story. What do you think helped you to build and develop that sort of strength and resolve?
That's a great question, Brittany. I mean, I think I was raised in a family that, I mean, like I saw my dad, I mean, my mom too, but my dad was somebody that I admire profoundly. I mean, like he was the person that always told me since I was little, you can do whatever you want in life because I am gonna be here always to protect you. And he made me, he will always say, you are so smart, you are the strongest woman that I know. Like he will say all these things throughout my entire life. And he was a very clear, a very, very great role model of persistence. Like he would just keep going, keep going, keep going. In my case, as Ram mentioned, I was married for 10 years and it was an extremely abusive relationship. It was horrible. I remember one day I was pregnant with my son, Paul, big, like I was like maybe not 8 months, but probably it was between 6 and 7 months. It was raining on the street. We were going to a store. And when I walk inside the store, like when you are pregnant, your balance is not great. I walked inside the store and I slipped. They had wooden floor. I slipped and I fell on my knees. And that mother fluffer grabbed me from my hair and pulled me back up in front of everybody. I mean, besides that, he never hit me, but that was so horrible. And then he kind of, manipulated, like, oh, that was the first thing, that was the first thing that came to my your head, right? So I was already in a very abusive relationship. So trauma started there. And then this is when it's not something that breaks you from the get-go, right? Like it's not something that it hits you so hard. Like, like there is so many women or men that have been, like raped or abused is, they are killing you in pinches, right? Like they pinch you, they pinch you, they pinch you. And that deteriorates your soul and your self-confidence and your trust. And, like it just is a slow path to destruction and self-destruction, right? Because you allow that to happen, right? So, and then, like I chose a career that was extremely, like difficult and hard. And, like, and then again, like it was a little bit, I mean, not a little bit, it was my responsibility to put myself in those situations, right? Like it was my responsibility to put myself in the hands of the person that I trusted the most, right? It was supposed to protect you and be on your side, but it didn't. And then I chose a career that was extremely also kind of abusive emotionally, because you go to these places, like war zones, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I work in a lot of refugee camps, a lot of, like issues where you see people that are being, like very mistreated. So yourself, I mean, myself emotionally, I abused, right? To the point that, my brain said, that's enough, Missy. We are not taking this anymore, right? So of course it piles up, Yeah.
Wow. Brittany, you paused
We
there.
cannot hear you, Suri.
Sorry.
Yes.
I had cats in the background that were like screaming. But I just wanted to tie that in with the emotional and psychological abuse, even though it's not
Mm-hmm.
physical abuse, it does affect the brain. It
Oof.
really does. And it is the impact that we have within those scenarios, the impact that is done to people who have experienced it is actual physical, studied, and documented harm that happens.
Well, I would say that like when the problem with emotional abuse
Mhm.
is like if you have physical abuse, you can see it, right? Like you know, like somebody hits you and you know like you are hurt. The emotional abuse is so slow that you cannot tell. Like you don't know when it starts and ends. You know, like it's just a little bit at the time. It's like in homeopathic dosage, right? Like is you
Yep.
cannot tell, but it's there constantly, right? And you start doing weird things, so the other person doesn't know that you are doing something that is, like maybe taking care of yourself, or maybe, like protecting your children, or maybe, like I remember putting my son in the bed on Sunday afternoon, like maybe it was like 6 or 7 in the afternoon during summer, that I mean, like, like it was sunny outside still, and I would put him to sleep, and he was old enough, like he was 3 years and a half at that time. He would say, "Mom, why are you putting me in the bed? There's light outside." And I would say, "Hey, I'm gonna close the blinds and it's gonna be dark. I can't promise you that." But I did that so when he will come home from the bar and drinking, he won't be abusive to him.
Hmm.
Like I thought, he's gonna say something mean to me. I don't want my son to see it.
Wow.
Right? So to protect him, right?
Yep.
I like it's just we do these things. Like when I think about that now, it's like how do you allow I mean, how do you let it happen? You don't let it happen. It's just so slow and so subtle that
Mhm.
you cannot tell until, like there is a point that you say, "Hey, mister, you are out."
Yep.
Well,
Exactly.
you took me down some deep memory, like very, very deep memories. Uh, as someone like was very close to me, and she um she was pregnant as well. Well, she did lose the baby, and yeah, this person like strung her up with a sheet on the bed and punched her in her belly and beat her up like that. I watched that same person being drunk again, slam another person into a wall, things like that. And these things, like I don't know who is watching the show. I don't want to bring anybody's business on here, but at the end of the day, these are traumas that I like, things I witnessed as a child. Like I'm talking about, I was like around 10, 11, stuff like that. And you're talking about how you're trying to protect your child. And I remember a few weeks ago, I spoke about sitting every time my mom had to come home from work and knowing my stepfather was drunk and just sit there praying that he goes to sleep. So when she comes home, it'll just be a peaceful night and she can eat something and get to bed. You know, some people do not understand the depth of what they put their children through when it comes to abuse, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, or especially when it comes to substance abuse, when they abuse different drugs, they are alcoholics, and then they're insecure in their minds, abusing their loved ones. They do not know the trauma it sets up throughout their life. And this is sad. And I really, I, I just jump in one of the main comments here, as Jenny is saying, I think she's a wonderful, caring person with a very strong personality. And she answered your question for you within your question when Brittany asked you just now. And thank you so much for coming out here tonight and share. I mean, we're not done with you, but I love just telling you thank you because I mean, these are stories people need to hear because you know how many we right now. I'm looking at my Facebook while we're on here and just looking. it's just lit tonight. And I see
That's
all the
great.
loves and all the hearts of people looking at you and listening to you. Even I know people will listen back to the podcast, the rerun, and they will hear your story. And they themselves, there are many women that I am in contact with on TikTok who goes through these domestic abuses and they're in the relationship. I have friends in the past, gay friends as well as straight friends, who went through domestic violent abuses in relationships. And we will think about this as the 21st century, but hey, we're in the 21st century in Afghanistan. Just stop their women from speaking out loud, reading out loud, singing. They have to cover their whole face. We're in the 21st century and they're talking about this is because of religion. Hell, I ask, where is Superman in times like this to rip these people apart? And these are your evil in the world. And this is the demons of the world, not the people you blame it on, like the devil. These are your devil. These are your demons. Everything that's happening, situated bad in the world, these are your demons. And they're the ones who cause these traumas. As I say, human beings are the destruction of other human beings. So let's just run through some of the comments because I think they're showing you a lot of love. We have Sweetie Nuri is saying, "Oh, so sad and so sweet." Oh, by the way, whoever watches our podcast, who joins us live, tell your friends as well that you get shout out week after week, whether it's your birthday, your anniversary, and we put your comments up, we read them out for you, and we are here for you. We answering your questions. Any one of you, pop your questions in here as well. Shanaz is saying, amazing story. You are a miracle talking story. I love it. JC is saying, you're such a badass girl. Love it. Such an inspirational story. Shoots, what a story. All right. Here we go. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Gemi. I love you. They're sending you love, love. Such a powerful story. Thank you for sharing. Miss Viva, she's always here every week. Much love. Thank you. Jenny, again, so true. I'm an amazing mom. Such an amazing person. Girlie is saying so true. All right. So with that being said, I love that you said that thing about India when you started at the beginning, that you're not just trying to draw a picture that was bad for anyone, that this is always going to happen. Because I have friends who study from here all the time. Yeah.
India is a wonderful country. I've been there many times. It was just a very weird situation that this group of guys were there. Like they could have been in somewhere else, like it was a coincidence. It happens anywhere, like it can happen anywhere. My experience with India is wonderful. They are super loving, welcoming people, so warm. Like I remember I was in a small village in AP. What was the name of that place? Sonur. I think it was Sonur. Sonur, I think it was Sonur. So tiny. People were so small. I remember women. I mean, I'm not a big, like I'm just 5'4" and I don't know, maybe 127 pounds, but I was gigantic on their side. Like, so they are so tiny and they were so welcoming, like just hug you and touch you, like it's just the people. I mean, like they are wonderful. There is another beautiful place. I mean, like they have places, like when people think about India, they think about the Purnis and Delhi because they show the big cities. Big cities sometimes are not the most appealing place, but there is on the south west of India, there is an area called Kerala that has backwaters, that the water from the ocean, the Indian Ocean, comes inside the earth, the ground, and they do this, I don't know how they call it, snake, I don't know. They have these really long boats with sometimes 20 guys like rowing. It's like a whole festival, and then there is a beautiful town called Kovalam. Like everybody, when I talk about India, go there, visit this place because it's wonderful. So India is not a place that you have to fear. It's a place that you have to adore because it's wonderful, wonderful.
Just like I think it was a couple weeks ago we played that my little video, and I told my little story about India, and that's my transformation, because after coming back from India I changed as well. My mindset towards bringing out your life experiences with Raw was inspired from India. So I understand you, I connect with you. My team is from India. They're amazing human beings, and they're from, I think it's West Bangla, in the west as well. So they are amazing people. They're from, I think it's Durgapur, right? Brittany, I'm not too sure. And they're so sweet. And even when I was there, my driver showed me so much love and care and compassion and kindness that, you could never forget these people. Like I tell people, when you connect with someone on a level where they give you the most expensive thing for free, which is love, kindness, being nice, you can never forget that. With your story, before I jump off here and let you and Brittany have a little conversation again, I want to tell you something. And this I tell people every single week, and I say it week after week. What is meant for you shall never pass you by. And what passes you by was never meant for you. You see, exactly how your story unfolded was exactly how it's supposed to have happened.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, always thanks to that. I always say thanks to all the experiences, all the like adventures and traumas and amount of people and countries and languages that I like all these things make me the person that I am today. That's why I can help a much higher level, like a much, like in a much better way to a lot of people. So fulfilling a greater future.
so I just want to address this because I have one more question for you before I leave. Fred Flores is saying, I agree. He's talking about India. Let's not forget street food. So delicious. But he's talking about,
Very, very true. Very true.
on Instagram and social media right now, they show you all these videos with people putting their hands in the food and flies are sitting in the food and stuff like that. So that's why he's mentioning that, because he's a little scared to eat from any streets if he happened to go to India anytime. So look, my question to you is like, I mean, as your dad put it for you, you're an outgoing person and you're a strong person, right? But what actually directed you? Like, why? What inspired you that this is a direction in life that you wanted to take when you went out to do your research and every single thing in India?
Well, I mean, I really cannot say. Like I always felt. I mean, I still do. Who doesn't like a good challenge, right? Like
I
I
know.
always chose in life. I mean, I never chose the easy path. ev- Like like always chose the challenge because there is a much bigger reward, right? Like you are more unique. Like people gets to know you in like in different way. Like, and it does make you stronger because you have to overcome a lot of things that many people will never have get to experience ever, right? So it does certainly challenge. Challenge is what I like. Yeah, I do like a
Uh,
challenge.
well, I love that because it will actually connect with me and my little story. This podcast that we do every week, Trauma Talk Thursdays, which is my little spin-off of Your Trauma Talks, which we are actually having on Broadway on October 3rd, right here in New York City. For the first time ever, you're having a mental health conference where everybody, all the speakers are coming together to tell their trauma talks live, in person. And with me saying that, it has been challenging. I have seen the challenges, and trust me, do you think Raw backs down? No. Come on. Because listen,
Of course
when you
not.
put your mind to something that is positive, at the end of the day, it all works out in a great way. So, hey, why be down and out when it is that you can smile and say, hey, look how far you came. from where you were to where you are today. So with you,
Absolutely.
Brittany, and everyone who is listening to us tonight, I want you to do this for yourself right now. Give yourself a pat on the back and tell yourself, thank you. I love you for bringing me from yesterday to today, because that was a challenge. And I want all of you to keep believing and know that Ra loves you and he believes in you. Thank you, Dr. Jeremy, for coming out
Yeah.
here. Thank you, Brittany. I'll leave you guys here to finish a little talk. You can ask her what you want, Brittany.
Yep.
And definitely to all my amazing Rastas and Obscurum Knights and everyone who is here for Dr. Jeremy Bertran, I want to tell you all thank you for being here, and join us next week as we bring you another amazing Trauma Talk Tuesday on episode 26. Thank you again, Dr. Jeremy.
So stay here.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to do a quick wrap up. Share a little bit about your programs and about a collaboration with a certain organization called the Wounded Blue and how you support an individual from that.
Yeah, so we met Randy through Brittany. Brittany, Brittany is the great connector in our organization, right? Randy, she introduced me to Randy. Randy is a retired lieutenant in Las Vegas Police Department, and he, after his own experience, which was kind of like he had a stroke in the police car, and then he was kicked out of the of the corps, and then he didn't know what to do, right? Like, had no support, didn't know like how to get the benefits and all of that. So he created a nonprofit called the Wounded Blue, and his story is amazing. I mean, I just brushed on top of it. But when I met Randy, I believe Brittany introduced me to Randy because the Wounded Blue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the PTSD with the officers and
yes,
earlier conversation.
So the conversation was about that. But then it turns out that he had very poor health. It turns out that he had really high blood pressure. His blood pressure was 150 over 120. He was taking three different type of beta blockers for the high blood pressure. 2 different medication for high cholesterol, because also he had a high cholesterol. He had a quadruple bypass January this year, and January last year, and he had 5 strokes. The last one was in the gym because he was already retired. It happened another one after that. Anyways, so I said, listen, if you want, I can help you to get rid of all these problems. And he said, I would love to. So what we did is, I put him in a detox. He detoxed for 10 days. We switched his food. We got rid of the medication. And 3 weeks later, his blood pressure was 120 over 65 and never went up. And that was, I don't know, probably 7 months ago. And he is still doing fantastic. So that changed everything. What I do with the Wounded Blue is I train their volunteers, because all the volunteers are retired police officers, and they need training specialized in brain and behavior. So they are taking the program, and that way they can help better the police officers that they are servicing. Yeah.
And hopefully that will prevent a lot more injuries from officers dealing with PTSD and other dynamics. With that discussion that I've had personally with Randy, when you start listening to the issues that come up around that, you're like, yeah, no wonder why they're some officers kind of go off the rails and, do things that are not okay. So, that ties into
we have to. I want to mention something which I think is very, very important, and this is a very unknown. At least it wasn't known for me, because I'm very familiar with, again, special forces, and like everybody is kind of aware of the suicide rates that like retired military personnel commits. Is like is 22. They say 22 a day, but it actually is a little bit higher. Police officers, when they retire, so the math is, there is a 500% more that, so 1 out of 5 commit suicide. These are the numbers once they retire. Is insane, the amount of police officers that commit suicide.
Wow.
Yeah, or attempt, right? So it's really really scary. I also want to mention, because last week I received suicide rates throughout United States. There is estimates for the rest of the world, but United States are the numbers. And recently, the group that spiked higher in suicide rates are women from 45 to 55 years old. So ladies, if there is, like something that doesn't sit right, if you flirt with some kind of thoughts, always reach out. There is always people available. There is also the suicide hotline, suicide prevention hotline, which is 988. So everybody that, or know somebody that is struggling, just hit it on. Yeah, don't ever wait.
Thank you for that. And can you share a little bit about how your programs have helped those overcome these ideations and find healing and a path forward in their lives as well?
About the program, how the program helps them to that. So yeah, the program, what it does is very, like it just might not seem like super humble, but it is a really well-rounded program, because it really helps the student to understand how the brain works with the things that we do the most, which is basically eat, right? Like we might have habits that are unhealthy. We know those habits are unhealthy, but we eat so many times a day that if you have an unhealthy habit with that, the risk of having a problem is much higher than, I don't know, like run really fast in a motorcycle. You know what I mean? So we do it so many times a day. The course explains and makes you real aware of the areas where you are damaging eating the things that you are eating, right? And sometimes are so simple that we don't even think about it, right? Like it's sugars, or like we drinks a glass of wine every night to unwind, and with the like all these things that we put in our body that change the chemistry of our brain, and our brain loses the capacity to create, loses the capacity for recovery, which is something called neuroplasticity, right? Like neuroplasticity, our brain has neuroplasticity. It always knows how to go back to homeostasis. And when we are adding chemicals that change the chemistry, natural chemistry in our brain is lost, right? So if we are eating a lot of junk food, there is a lot of sugar there that creates a lot of problems. as you know, but often people doesn't think that causes a chemical problem in our brain. They think, like, oh, diabetes, or like overweight, but often we don't think about, the consequences in the long term in the brain, which, like sometimes is also some, there is a lot of memory loss because sugar, because decreases the amount of neurotransmitters in the brain, right? So when we don't have neurotransmitters in the long run, our brain decreases the neurotransmitters making machine that we have in our brain. So the memory starts getting lost, right? Like there is more cases, the dementia when people eat more sugar, right? Like in many, many cases, we don't think about these things as also a problem that comes from eating too much sugar. And it does, it just causes a lot of problems.
Wow. It's interesting because in our processed food, it's always sugar. So,
well, let me tell you what, there is an Australian study actually that from United States stores, only 8% of the food on the shelves has no sugar. The rest of food has sugars. And wow. and this is produced basically, right? Like produced. And sorry, no, it's 18%. 18% of the food has no sugars. It's produced and meats and fish. The rest has sugars.
wow. Whew.
Yeah.
That is wild.
It is. Well, it's designed for us to lose the capacity of thinking or critical thinking, right? It keeps you stuck.
Exactly. Which also can create trauma loops and many other issues compounding on top of that. Can you give a little brief summary of the different issues that you do support within Nourish the Brain Institute, how you helped people to take a step forward in their healing and taking control of their lives?
Well, I mean, it happens 100% of the time that when people is aware of how your body works, right? Like how your brain performs, how your pancreas performs, how your liver performs, what is causing inflammation in your gut, all these things. When you understand and you are aware of what is going on with your body, and you can change the way that you are eating, the body heals itself because it knows how to do it, right? So we help people that has type 2 diabetes all the time, right? Just by educating them and creating, like one new habit at the time. And diabetes is something really easy to get rid of, even though, in United States, there is actually right now 38 million people diagnosed with diabetes. 38 million people. So it's people that uses medication for diabetes, right? So when we are in these situations, I get distracted about the comments that pop in here. When we are in the loop of eating unhealthy and you don't know, because the problem is this one, is like everybody should learn about brain and behavior and nutrition, right? Like everybody should know how to feed their children so they are more capable students. They have less trouble focusing, right? Like the things that they should eat, the things that they shouldn't eat, right? The things that are an extra, right? Like candy, that should be an extra, no an everyday thing. Because again, we decrease neurotransmitters. When we decrease neurotransmitters, we cannot focus, right? Like this is an example that I always tell people, and it's super easy. If you have a kid or you have been around kids, everybody knows when a kid is in a sugar rush, right? Like it looks like they are possessed by an evil spirit and they cannot stop bouncing wall to wall towards the ceiling. Like it's just crazy how they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you ask them to stop, like stop, listen, stop doing this, do that. They can't. Like the willpower is gone 100% because the neurotransmitters in the brain are completely gone, and for them it's impossible to focus and pay attention. They want to follow the orders. They just can't.
Wow.
Because the brain doesn't let them, right? So it's really interesting to see the results when people learn how to take care of their own health and how to, like just education. I always say like education is such a powerful tool, because like then you can make an educated decision for your own health, right? Instead of relying on medication in the future.
True. All right. So I'm going to read some of these comments real quick. So Viva Miss says, thank you. Shanaz says, amazing night. I love you all. Believer of Karma, love your strength and love you, Dr. Bertran.
Thank
Sweetie
you.
says, India suicide rates are off right now. She says, every 40 seconds, someone in India commits suicide.
It's just insane.
Viva Miss says, healthy food means healthy mental health. Yep.
Absolutely.
Believer of Karma says, good night. Jenny says, do you have a food chart?
We do not have a food chart per se, because the way that our education goes is we educate people to understand how their body works and what works for them, for their body, right? Because the thing is, this is what happens here, I mean, everywhere, right? Like we standardize people. We put them in the box and everybody has to do the same type of things, right? Like if you ask somebody that, like is overweight and you ask, do you know what you should be eating to be healthy? Everybody knows. Everybody knows that vegetables, fish and meat and, like lean protein and vegetables and fruit and whole grains, those are the things that you want to be eating. Do they do it? No, in many cases they don't. That's why it's so important to understand how to feed the brain to make better decisions for yourself, right? Because there is a specific brain foods, right? So the brain becomes less reactive, right? Like our brain manages our reactions, right? Like our brain has an area called the deep limbic system that is our survival, is the fight or flight lives there. Also, depression lives there. Self judgment, negative thinking is in the deep limbic system. When that area is overreactive because we have been, like with trauma constantly, right, or stress constantly, that area is overreactive. You need to learn how to eat things that are going to calm that area down so you get a grasp of your thoughts, so you don't go to the dark side of your thinking, right? So understanding all these things is important. So the course trains people on that. Yes.
Nice. Okay. JC says, eating habits is important to high blood sugars. Girly wrote, you have to watch what you eat. Sweetie says, diabetes is a silent killer, just as high blood pressure.
And as a stress is also a silent killer. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Jenny says, thank you. So to wrap this up, where can people find you and Nourish the Brain?
So we have our website, of course. There is a lot of resources. Many people doesn't know, but you might be eligible for some of these state programs like the WIOA, and the state will pay for the training, for the training with us, so it can help you to upskill or reskill your career. Also, if you are a veteran, like we work with veteran benefits, so the website is a good place to find all these resources. Also, you can find us in IG. We are very active. I check IG all the time. People DMs me all the time, and it's at Nourish the Brain Institute. That's the IG. Facebook, same thing, Nourish the Brain Institute. And you know, we are in social media like everybody.
And I did put the link to Nourish the
I saw
Brain,
that. Yeah, thank you.
ntbu.org. So feel free to check that out. And one more thing for those tuning in, I'm going to put my book for free. It's an edited version in the chat
Nice.
for our viewers, and it is called "Can I Get Some Sleep?" And Ra announced that earlier in the show when with the introduction video, but it is for you all. And for those tuning in, if you are listening to this on the podcast, come over to YouTube or my channel or Ra's channel, and you should be able to see that in the comments. So thank you so much, Gemi, for joining us tonight and for blessing
My
us
pleasure.
with your wisdom, your knowledge, and for sharing your story. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, it is my pleasure, and you have, like all this. Yeah, everybody that is here tonight is being so kind and so nice. What is going on with me tonight? It's not popping up.
Aw.
Anyways, so thank you guys. Also, I really love the comment situation. I mean, like, I would like to be able to be more attentive to this, right? I have to keep track to the camera. Russell, just look at the camera. So that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
So thank you guys for the comments, because this is really uplifting. Thank you, Biba. She said I rate this show #1, so it's really, really good. Thank you so much for that. Your words, like your kind words, it help you, like lift up your spirit. That feels good. That feels good. Thank you. And thank you, Brittany. You are awesome. You are awesome.
Thank you.
Sweet and kind and loving and so freaking smart.
And by the way, I know Rod just posted the link to my book, but if you scroll down under the book, you'll see a little advertisement for Nourish the Brain. So feel free to click the link there too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.